Aloha, inspired moneymakers. Welcome to Inspired Money, the show that explores wealth, investments, and the pursuit of financial freedom. Today, we have a topic that some might consider a little woo-woo. Our topic is cultivating abundance, attracting wealth with a prosperity mindset. Before we start, I read that there are 3 studies in peer-reviewed journals that found positive thinking is good for the immune system, reduces anxiety, and increases positive emotions such as happiness. I also heard about a study where 2 groups of people analyzed newspapers. Those with a positive mindset found more opportunities than those that had a negative one, even though they were scanning the same newspapers. So there's something to this. Today, we're going to explore the power of having an abundance mindset. Can we shift our focus from scarcity to limitless possibilities? And if we can, it could enrich not just our finances, but every aspect of our lives. So I believe it's worth exploring. Before jumping into this episode, I want to share that a great companion to Inspired Money is Stacking Deeds. We had co-host of Stacking Deeds, Crystal Hammond, as a panelist on episode 13. That was Building Wealth Through Real Estate Investments. Deeds is the sister show to Stacking Benjamin. So similarly, it has a you can do it vibe and focuses on getting the basics right, so you don't get in over your head with calls at 2 a.m. from your tenants. Generating passive income with real estate can be great, but it can be ugly too. Crystal and co-host Joe. Let's bring in our panelists. We'll just accept the fact that we had some technical difficulties for the intro. But I'm excited to bring in Bob Baker. He gets nearly 1 million monthly views and empowers millions with morning affirmations and guided meditations for a mindset upgrade. He's also known as the godfather of independent music marketing, helping many musicians around the world through his acclaimed Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook. Bob, your affirmation and meditation YouTube channel has 373,000 subs, I think. And your most popular video has 7.2 million views. How did you get into positive affirmations?
Well, it was something that I, my entire life, since I was in my teens, I've been on a sort of a personal growth journey. And when I was a kid, I was terribly shy, lacked confidence, kind of extreme version of it, where I stuttered and I this was kind of a wallflower, but I felt that there was some more extroverted person within me that was just being held back by this exterior shell of lacking confidence. And so actually I discovered a book by Wayne Dyer in the 70s called Your Erroneous Zone. It's one of his first popular books that just opened my eyes to a new way of thinking. And so that led to a lifelong pursuit of just personal development, and included affirmations and meditations and journaling and all the things that we've probably heard about it are part of morning routine. So it was already something that I was familiar with. And then in around 2016, I was sort of going through a funk, struggling a little bit financially, and kind of lost my mojo with my career. And I was seeking out these affirmations and guided meditations on YouTube, not really happy with what I was finding. And so, I've been around a microphone, I've been a musician, I had some of the audio equipment. So I just started creating myself, creating things that I couldn't find that I wanted to hear. And lo and behold, I had no idea how, there was no business plan, had no idea how they'd be received, but people liked the sound of my voice and the messages that I was putting out there. And it took about a year before I realized, oh, I can turn this into something. Because when I started that, it was like I had less than 4,000 subscribers. And now you're right, close to 375,000 million views a month. There are people all over the world that wake up and listen to my voice, and I've helped pull a lot of people out of dark places. And so it's a great way to serve and support my family. So yeah, I'm loving this unexpected chapter of my life here.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing your stories. That sounds very transformative in your own life. Absolutely. Next, we have Cliff Ravenscraft, the transformative master business coach and host of Mindset Answer Man podcast. He empowers individuals to unleash their true potential with over 1,000 trainings.
He muted himself again.
I don't know what's happening. So yeah, I don't know why I'm not muting myself. It's happening by StreamYard. It's Gremlins. Well, let me continue. With over 40,000 trained in podcast success, Cliff guides tens of thousands to break free from limits, creating compelling brands, and making a profound impact. Cliff, you're an OG in podcasting. You've hosted many podcasts. What was it that motivated you to start Mindset Answer Man?
Well, it's the same thing that motivated me to leave my very secure day job as an insurance agent, working in a family-run insurance agency that was started by my grandfather in 1937, where I was the next in line to take it over. What it was is I discovered podcasting as a hobby in December 2005. And as a result of some really crazy circumstances, we had tens of thousands of subscribers by our third episode, my wife and I. We were podcasting about a television show called Lost. And from the time I was a teenager, I had decided I want to devote myself to a life of service to others. And at the time, I thought that would be ministry. I thought maybe one day I'd be the pastor of my own church, that kind of sort of thing. But eventually I came to realize that, wow, I'm actually having an incredibly profound impact on a ministry level to more than 10,000 people in my local community as an insurance agent, and being of service to people who just lost their homes to a tornado or fire, talking to somebody whose daughter just got killed in a car accident. The way that I was able to show up as an insurance agent, I thought, man, I think I can't see myself being a pastor of a church and having more opportunity to serve than I have as an insurance agent. But that was until I had tens of thousands, and within about 9 months, hundreds of thousands of subscribers around the world, emailing me 100 emails a week minimum, pouring out their heart saying, listen, you talked about this thing in your most recent podcast. I got to ask you, can you answer these questions for me? And we're talking about hundreds of people pouring out the deepest fears and struggles of their lives, asking for insight and encouragement. And I realized, wow, I could do this for a living. And so I began to ask myself, what would life be like if, instead of following the family tradition of taking over this insurance agency, what if I did this whole podcasting thing for a living? And initially I thought I'd make content and I would get paid by advertising and all that other stuff, and sponsorships, those things. But what happened was I discovered people said, hey, can you teach me how to podcast? And people are willing to pay a lot of money to have my thousands of hours of experience. And it got to the point where I was making anywhere between $500,000 to $750,000 a year just teaching people how to podcast. And I'm like, oh, wow, I became the podcast answer man. But here's the situation. I didn't get into this whole podcasting space or world or content creation so that I could make lots of money and so that I could be the podcast answer man. I wanted to be of service to people. And what I recognize is people were hiring me to help them launch a podcast. But what I was really helping them do is overcome imposter syndrome, helping them rediscover even bigger dreams. What do you want to do with this podcast? What do you hope it will achieve for you? Like 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? And the number of people who didn't have dreams, I was helping them reconnect to their ability to dream. And then what I realized over time is like, listen, yes, people are initially coming to me because they want to launch a podcast and they need technical help. But what I was really offering of value was mindset shifting and helping them break free from limiting beliefs and actions and behaviors that are keeping them from creating that life that they desire. And so after more than a decade teaching more than 40,000 people how to launch a podcast, I shut all of that down to pursue what Gay Hendricks in his book, The Big Leap, calls the zone of genius, which is coaching. And I've been doing mindset and business strategy coaching for the last 6 years, and I'll never look back.
You've definitely found your zone of genius. So
you're muted again, just so you know.
Thank you for that. It seems to be a browser issue that I'm having. But next we have Tony Selimi, award-winning global educator and business coach. He triumphed over homelessness and illness to become a TEDx speaker and multi-award-winning author. With over 30 years of expertise, Tony has guided A-list celebrities and global leaders, delivering 25,000 coaching hours to help individuals unleash their magnificence and achieve fulfillment in health, relationships, and professional success. Tony, as a kid, you were really ill, homeless. What turned it all around?
Well, basically, I was born in North Macedonia. Back then used to be former Yugoslavia. And as some of you may know, we had the civil war. And I was in one of the top universities in engineering in Zagreb when the civil war broke. And I was taken straight from university into being trained to be fighting for the former Yugoslavia, a civil war deep down I despised. And my life overnight turned around to not knowing whether I'm going to live any second, every single day, every single minute, whether I'm going to be alive or dead. Fast forward 14 months in those conditions, my life was saved. I was put on a one-way flight ticket to London, where I ended up being homeless, feeling hopeless, crying, losing my identity, losing half of my family, not knowing English at all, and trying to really come to terms with the loss, with the grief, with everything, living on the streets of London. And eventually, when I had no more tears left, I had to get up and first and foremost try to go back into finding humanity within me, but also what is it that I can do in this new country that first and foremost can get me a roof over my head, and started doing all sorts of jobs. So my first jobs would be, cleaning the streets and cleaning people's gardens and doing DIY and going into carrying people's groceries from a supermarket to home, helping the elderly. And then I started finding job in restaurants, in bars, in clubs, and then I used that money to educate myself. So I went through the education system, and I paid for my own education and graduated from one of the top engineering universities with engineering and management. In the meantime, trying to heal all of the trauma, working with different coaches, healers, but also a lot of wonderful people who crossed my path to help me get back to some form of normality. And as I went through this journey, I wanted to really use all of the experience and expertise that I built, especially during my career in technology, and investing in my personal growth, spiritual growth, and also healing and becoming a healer of many different methodologies, including Reiki. So I wanted to really combine this scientific knowledge and the person in me who loves science and loves logic and business and leadership and all the skills that you develop in this career with spirituality and healing, and how I can help people and be of greater service to humanity, not just to individuals. Because we've all seen when we have leaders around the world who are in charge of our lives, the entire world can go pear-shaped, which means affects every single human being. So my mission around bringing the kind of methodologies that I developed through 30 years of research, both from a perspective of science, psychology, cognitive behavior, emotional intelligence, but also the Eastern methodologies of healing the body, mind, and spirit. I wanted to create a tool that not only leaders can use, because the leader is the head of a company, of a business, or of a state. Because at a leadership level, it's where everything below leadership gets affected by one choice, by one decision. So I wanted to give people a tool, especially working in technology. I noticed one of the biggest problems is while people are growing in their careers, there's a side, I would say, effect when it comes to their relationship or their health. Their health will deteriorate in pursuit of, I would say, career or wealth building or stuff like that, or they'll go through divorce, or they'll have children who are addicted to drugs and all of that. So I wanted to use all of this. How can I help people who serve people at the highest level and becomes their trusted coaching partner in a situation where they can become conscious leaders, but also they can be of a greater service by exemplifying high human potential, not only for themselves, but for those they lead, for those they love in their relationship. So the methodologies that I built start basically bringing those aspects of 8 critical areas of our life into harmony, into alignment. Because if one of our areas is disempowered, the other areas, other people will empower us. And therefore, we end up in those conflicting dynamics within ourselves, but also with other people. And for sure, we're not going to develop our life to the fullest potential or feel fulfilled, healthy, joyful, and being able to bring all of those wonderful skills we have within ourselves to serve others, but not only to serve others, because in order to serve, you also need to fulfill those desires within yourself, which is also about receiving, but also you mentioned philanthropy earlier on. And one of the things that I wanted to do is take people through all the steps. So as they overcome all of those things, to be able to be perfectly in shape within themselves, within their health, within their emotions, and then serve others from that level.
I love that. I love that you have this incredible life story and have channeled that into something very positive, helping others. Next, we have Jimmy the Pencil in the house. We have James Orsini, the transformative force behind the Sasha Group's exponential growth. He led the agency from under 10 million to over 20.5 million in revenue. As president of startup operations for VaynerX, he has 30 years experience. James, a seasoned change agent known for driving sustainable financial growth and strategic planning in competitive global arenas. James, I'm so glad that you could make it today.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be a little tardy, but thank you so much, Andy, for having me here. Excited to be on the panel and just share from, there's no substitute for wisdom and experience, and I'd like to think that I have both when it comes to finance, operations, and marketing.
Well, I think that we have a great group of individuals as panelists today, different backgrounds, different areas of expertise. Let's go straight into segment one.
The abundance mindset offers a transformative philosophical perspective, fundamentally contrasting with scarcity beliefs. It centers on the sufficiency of resources and opportunities, emphasizing the intrinsic value of people over money, and the principle that wealth is a byproduct of providing value. Embracing an abundance mindset shifts focus from limitations to possibilities, fostering belief in ample resources and success for all. This approach facilitates a shift from pessimism to optimism, viewing the world as filled with opportunities rather than constraints. It can create win-win situations where success is shared and not at the expense of others. It aligns with the growth mindset, which suggests that abilities and success are not fixed, but can be developed through effort and perseverance. The abundance mindset can fuel personal and spiritual growth. It's about more than financial success. It's a philosophical approach to life that embraces positivity and potential. Cultivating an abundance mindset is a pathway to attracting wealth in all aspects of life, redefining success beyond monetary terms. It's a mindset that opens doors to a more fulfilling and prosperous life.
So I want to start with Bob. How has adopting an abundance mindset impacted your life?
Greatly, I would say. So I came from sort of modest means. I was raised by a single mom, and what I would guess classify as a lower middle class neighborhood. And she always worked for nonprofits, so my mom was always scraping by. Did a wonderful job of raising me, but I really didn't have role models who were entrepreneurial or were wealthy. So I don't really know where this came from, but I just had an innate instinct within me to live a better life, which is what led to that sort of personal growth journey that I mentioned earlier. I want to talk a little bit about you mentioned at the top of the show and a couple of different points here that quite often this abundance mindset is lumped into a category that by some might consider woo-woo, and that is true. Because affirmations, meditation, journaling, a lot of people put them in a spiritual category, and it's tied into law of attraction and frequency, and I know that Tony there was just talking about his Reiki, which is definitely an energy working type of thing. But I like to and I think that all that's very possible. If you study quantum physics, it's very possible that your vibration attracts like, but I like to, but there are some people that turns them off. And so I take a very practical approach to this, especially when it comes to affirmations and positive self-talk and positive thinking. It can work on a very practical level. I'll give you a really just a personal example I think we can all relate to. Years ago, I purchased a Honda Element, which is a very specific make and model of a car, kind of a boxy shape. And I had never even paid attention to Honda Elements prior to purchasing one. But once I started driving it, it's in my driveway, I'm driving it every day. Suddenly I start seeing them everywhere I turned around. There's another Honda Element. I'm going, where in the heck did these cars come from? I never even noticed them before. Well, of course, you know the answer. They were always there the entire time, but now I'm seeing them because they're top of mind. The filter through which I view the world has been influenced by them, and therefore I'm seeing them. So and that's a very practical concept. You don't even have to think of it as a woo-woo thing. And so I think it not only works that way with makes and models of cars and shapes and colors, it works that way with our attitude as well. And whether you're predominantly are you looking for obstacles all the time? Because if you're looking for reasons to be offended and all the unfairness in the world, you will see one example after another, because that's how your filter is wired to view the world. However, if you have more of an opportunity mindset, you remind yourself, you express gratitude for the things that you have. You said there are opportunities here, I'm going to find them. Then you're going to see those opportunities, and life is going to be a lot better. Some people say that's delusional. You're burying your head in the sand. I don't think so. I mean, we don't deny the challenges of life or turn our back on them. We fully feel that life is full of a lot of pain and suffering, and we totally acknowledge that. But I think we can also train our brains to look for the positive and lead happier lives. And that choice is really up to each one of us.
It's a great insight. I have to share that I have a friend who in New York City, she always parks like right in front of the place where we're going. And I could not figure this out. So one time I asked her, I said, how is it that you always park right in front? And she said, I give thanks on my way there for a parking spot really close to where I'm going. And then it just happens that I find one. So I have started doing that, and my kids laugh at me. But I have parked for free in New York City, which is incredible. So I want to ask Cliff, how is it that you encourage your clients to shift from a scarcity to an abundance mindset?
Well, I just first ask them, how are things going for you with a scarcity mindset? Do you like the results that you're getting in life? And the reason why I know what that answer will be is because I used to have a scarcity mindset. I grew up with a very poor view of what is possible in this world. I used to have a hyper fixation on my problems. I used to have a habit of blame and criticism of all the things that are working against me. And as a result of that scarcity mindset and, everybody else is hoarding all the wealth or whatever, all of these things were not leading me to a life that I wanted to experience. I felt very much limited into what I could earn, what my potential, what is possible for me. However, it was through the book Think and Grow Rich that all of a sudden I was at least confronted, or I might even say affronted, in my belief system. And I was warned to stay away from self-help and personal development stuff, because it leads down a slippery slope that will lead you astray from the straight and narrow of my fundamentalist Christian upbringing. And I will tell you, I struggled with that for quite a few years. However, what I recognized is there were some people that that pretty much shared my faith, at least the aspects of my faith that I found foundational, and yet their lives were completely radically different, and they seemed to be huge fans of like Think and Grow Rich and certain self-help gurus. I won't mention any specific names right here, right now, but what I will say is, like, I'm blown away that this Christian successful business owner who has achieved so much, that you actually read these books and you recommend that people read them, and that just gave me a freedom. It's like, listen, okay, if they can read it and turn out this way, from my perspective, if I could live a life where I'm achieving the way that they do, I'm giving and serving at the level they do, and with integrity and character and with the type of values that I have myself, well, it hasn't led them astray. Maybe astray from some non-fundamental beliefs that I have, but I'm willing to explore. And that's what happened. And I will tell you that it has radically brought me to a process of deconstructing practically everything I picked up prior to 2020 and reconstructing my beliefs along the way. So from 2009 all the way up to 2020 was this slow journey of just slowly eroding away my scarcity mindset, my old belief patterns, and all of this other stuff. But then 2020, I don't know if you guys remember, there was something that happened that year that gave us a lot of time, a lot of free time at home to read, study, and think and grow. And boy, did I experience a radical shift and a radical transformation. And that was the first time in my life that I ever opened myself up to reading things from different faith perspectives, such as Eastern philosophy and Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, and uh, Sikhism, and actually meeting people online from all of these different faith traditions. And I'm like, wow, there's a whole different world here. And yeah, to say that I got deep into that is an understatement. And what I've witnessed through my life, I'm like, listen, my life is so vastly different today. I can't imagine anything that I would put my heart to that I desire that's not possible. I can't imagine any problem where I would not be able to face it and say, what does this make possible? I have found a place where, because of this new abundance mindset, this new anything is possible mindset, I have, and I come from this both from the practical side, but I'm also way comfortable today in the woo woo. If you would have asked me, Andrew, if you would have asked me 3 years ago to be on this panel, I would have said no just out of principle because my beliefs and values at the time would not allow me to participate in such a discussion as this. But I'm as far as woo woo can get these days. And quite frankly, I don't try to lead or steer any of my clients towards the woo-woo side, but I do help them understand the limits of the scarcity mindset. And if you and I don't think you have to give up your fundamental doctrinal beliefs for you to explore. Matter of fact, I work with a lot of folks who are pastors and deeply devout Catholics and Protestant Christians, and I can show them the law of attraction right there in the Bible, a minimum of 25 verses. And so all I do is I go through and show, hey, you might have a problem with so and so because of some of their character traits that don't seem to resonate with you very well. But let me show you where the Apostle Paul, where John, where Jesus talks about this law of attraction and thinking positive and be joyful always. And again, I say rejoice. And whatever is noble and praiseworthy and good, think about these things. I could go on and on and on. And so that's what I do is I help them through that. And they are able to get out of that mindset of scarcity, that mindset of guilt, that mindset of shame and fear and anxiety and worry about how other people will perceive them. And as soon as they get outside of that lower level of consciousness, then an entire world of opportunity has just opened up to them.
Well, it speaks to the importance of keeping an open mind. James, can you share an instance where adopting an abundance mindset led to significant growth or a turnaround in a business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Cliff and Bob, I came from modest means. I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I was the son of a plumber, but never remember wanting for anything when I was growing up. It seemingly felt like I always had everything that we needed, even though there were 6 of us living in an apartment. And I actually slept on a pull-out bed in my living room with my brother, didn't even have a bedroom. And again, it was just a happy, fulfilled life. I wrote an article back in the Princeton Journal about the authentic network. And it was about paying it forward. You know, it was about doing the right thing is always the right thing. And when you're in a position where you can help others, simply doing it, not because there's something in it for you, but because it's the right thing to do. Andy, you were here, and I work for Gary Vaynerchuk, who's all about the honey empire here. We are a people over profits entity here. It's demonstrated in things like voluntary turnover rates, which are so woefully less than industry averages, not because we're overpaying people because we have the best facilities or we provide the best snacks in the kitchen, but because we appreciate people for what they do. We try to help them find their sweet spot. And if they're out of position, we work really hard to get them in the right position rather than simply exit. Now, do we exit people? And the answer is yeah, we do, but we even try to stand them up on the way out. There are times where we've placed people that just simply weren't right inside of our hallways, but helped to place them in other areas. So I'm a big proponent of seeing the glass half full rather than half empty, and that's tough for a finance guy who's trained to be realistic, right? Part of what has been the challenge for me. I'm a New York State CPA. I started as an auditor. I worked at KPMG and Goldman Sachs, and this is a financial show. So, part of that difficulty was how do I help support the vision, have finances support the vision and not choke the vision, right? Cliff mentioned earlier about dreams. A dream without a plan is nothing more than a wish, right? So I remember when Gary hired me, he said, can you summarize what you do in a single sentence? And I said, yeah, I take dreams and visions and put them into action plans. And he's like, great, you're hired. I got a lot of dreams and visions. So that's what we've been working against here for the 9 years that I've been in the VaynerX world.
Life beyond the numbers. I did enjoy very much visiting the VaynerX headquarters in Hudson Yards. Let's move to segment 2.
The science behind the abundance mindset provides intriguing neurological and psychological insights. It intertwines the brain's processing of growth and positive thinking with the impacts that these have on behaviors and decisions. Central to this concept is the growth mindset, closely aligned with abundance thinking. Neuroscientific research shows that embracing potential and opportunities significantly influences outcomes and motivation. This perspective reshapes our brain's response to challenges, aligning with the principles of abundance. Neurology reveals how an abundance mindset influences goal-oriented behavior, enabling individuals to make decisions that align with their aspirations. Psychologically, adopting an abundance mindset shifts our focus from limitations to opportunities. It cultivates a belief in ample resources and success. This mindset transcends financial abundance and can lead to a richer, more fulfilling life experience, underscoring its transformative potential in personal development and life satisfaction.
Tony, in your intro, you started talking a little bit about your coaching methodology. I'm curious, where does an abundance mindset fit in there? And then do you address the neurological and psychological aspects of abundance thinking?
Absolutely. Those are the essential, the key, the foundation of actually taking the client through the process of growing their mindset in alignment with the abundance they want to have in their life. And the key elements in here is when we work specifically on wealth building and money and the abundance mindset, to understand what abundance means for the individual. Because, for instance, because of the methodologies I work also impact people's physical and emotional health. For somebody overcoming depression or addiction, that's abundance for them. But for other people, for instance, if they don't have the kind of money that gives them financial freedom, abundance mindset means something totally different. So I take them through a process. The first methodology in Path to Wisdom, it's called ALARM. And ALARM, it's 25 principles, scientifically proven principles that bring you into the abundance mindset. The first one is about awareness. So awareness, we're talking about being aware of your external reality and internal reality and seeing the mismatch between that. Because most people will tell me, if I ask them a question, they'll say, oh yeah, I feel like a billionaire. And my next question would be, does your bank show that? Or, if they say to me, this is the kind of lifestyle I want. And then if you continue with the questioning behind that, you will see the mismatch between their thought patterns, their behaviors, their actions, their values, and their belief system. So there's no alignment to that. So it starts with the process of clarifying. First and foremost, let's start talking about money creation. from money creation, we're talking about then how they're spending the money. Then we're talking about how they're investing, they're saving the money, and what is it they use the money if they were to go into philanthropy space. And usually there's no congruence in the mind between what they're thinking, what they're believing, what they're valuing, what they're acting upon, and what kind of vision for their life they have. And most people, they don't have clarity of their vision. Clarity of vision when it comes to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You know, when I work with corporate leaders, they might have a very fake kind of vision that was set up very quickly and written in words. But if you look at the rest of the teams, and if you look at whether that vision and those values that they identified in their corporate brochures is in alignment with the corporate culture and individual behaviors, they come to understand that they are far from it. Similarly, in our own life, if we don't have that alignment with our actions and being able to have specifically understand our own hierarchy of values in any moment in time, because the reality is neuroplasticity, the wonderful part of it that science now proves to us, that we can mold our brain in whichever way we want. So if we become extremely clear of the abundance that we want, we can actually nurture the brain to become a growth mindset brain. And, you know, one of the key principles within the alarm, it's actually paying attention to the language the client uses. Why? Because our thoughts, if we take them, go now into science and quantum physics, our thoughts will create that kind of signal that sends out into the universe. And then our emotions will create the kind of vibration we bring about and how we feel about wealth. And most people are not comfortable with either. They're not comfortable with what's going on in their brain, their head full of noise around the fears around abundance. And other people, they keep dropping their vibration around wealth. So sometimes I would take a client shopping. I would take them into a very expensive shop. And sometimes I would say, oh, I can't afford this. And then I would ask the client a question, for instance, saying, how much are you worth? You as a person worth? And, you know, usually the answer would come priceless. They wouldn't be able to put a price. And then I challenge them on the other hand, saying, so what is it that stops you from making that affordable? Or what if you change your language in a way you would say, what can I do to make this affordable? So, you know, going into those like limits, that perceived limits that clients have, and being a trained ear to understand the thought patterns that are going in the brain, and being able through powerful questioning and also identifying very clearly the top 12 values that the person has. Because if the person has values, for instance, let's say they have a value on wealth building, but the reality doesn't show that, that's actually a perceived value or an injected value that somebody else have told them they need to be wealthy or abundant, but not in reality living that kind of reality. So therefore, I have to go through the processes I'm creating within the methodologies to reshuffle their entire psychology to be in alignment with what they actually want.
I want to ask Bob, because I know that sometimes you have a musician's hat on, and that's been part of your past, writing this guerrilla music marketing handbook. I think musicians understand inherently the growth mindset, because you're always trying to perfect your craft, you're trying to improve, you're trying to grow, but it's also a profession that's full of ups and downs. So I want to ask you, how do you think an abundance mindset really affects an artist's ability to navigate those ups and downs?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so for good 20 years, we didn't mention it really much yet, but my whole identity was as and my first books 30 years ago were on music marketing, especially geared for independent artists who wanted to build their own careers. And that was I wrote that for good 20 plus years. And so even though it was about marketing and it's about tactics, there was always been an undercurrent of positive thinking and mindset and all the stuff that I've taught over the years. And what's kind of different about people in creative fields, musicians, writers, artists, is that as opposed to someone who's maybe selling a widget or a product or a car, those things are not, there's, yes, you maybe feel good about the product or the service that you're selling, but when that comes from you, when it's actually something that's personal that you created, that you wrote, there's so much more psychological baggage that comes with that. So I have battled that, or tried to mentor creative people to overcome that. I think more, creative people in particular have to battle that. Oh my God, I don't want to put myself out there. What if somebody doesn't like it? They're very sensitive, because creative people tend to be more emotional, and so it means they're also afraid of what people are going to think. And so I just try to remind people that there's value in the music or the art or the book or whatever that they're creating. And if you have any sampling of somebody who's benefited and complimented you on your work, that means that you're what you create, that unique expression of who you are, can positively impact people. So marketing isn't about being manipulative and shouting from the mountaintops. It's about taking that good feeling and spreading it to more people. Why would you keep that to yourself? So that's kind of in my marketing message, of focus on what's in it for the other person. It's not about being boastful. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Just one real quick thing about, I'm not a psychologist or therapist or anything, but one thing about the psychology of positive thinking is that our brains, we're like pattern making machines with our brains and in our minds, and this serves us well in many ways. Like, for instance, you don't have to think, once you learn how to tie your shoes or drive a car or get dressed or brush your teeth, you don't have to think about that. You kind of go on autopilot, and that frees up your brain to focus on other more important things. So this is a great aspect of how our minds work. However, the drawback is that also happens with negative patterns, and so that's why we kind of get into a hypnotic state of thinking a certain way, of behaving a certain way that doesn't serve us. And I'm glad that Tony mentioned awareness being one of the first steps. You really always have to constantly be monitoring your thoughts. Why did I respond that way? Is that the best way to approach this? What's the underlying belief that's triggering this emotion or this reaction that I'm having to things? And that's just like a lifelong journey of discovery.
Yeah, I want to ask James, because similarly to the ups and downs of a musician's life, the entrepreneur goes through that on a daily basis too. It's like a roller coaster. And at VaynerX, you have a case study with Gary Vaynerchuk, who has a very strong position on, like, he has a very clear mindset, and I would assume that kind of trickles down. But can you talk a little bit about within an organization, how do you manage, like, keeping an abundance mindset versus scarcity?
Well, in Gary's world, it's all about speed, right? And I remember when I was first brought on 9 years ago, I came in as the chief integration officer, and he stood me up in front of the company. At that time, we were about 450 employees. We're a little over 1,800 now, and I said, "Hey, I'm here to help keep things on the rails." And he's like, "Hold on, 1 second. You're here to help me hover above the rails like the train in Japan. I want to move faster. You've made 25 years of mistakes that I don't want to make. Help me avoid the potholes and move faster." So it was really all about speed. And what we're finding with the entrepreneurs is, there's no shortage of ideas in the entrepreneurial world. There's a shortage of execution, right? And actually helping those ideas actually turn into action plans that they could then act upon. But what we find is a fearlessness in them. They're simply not afraid of making mistakes, because they learn more from their mistakes than they do from their successes. So, I grew up in the advertising world, working for places like Saatchi and Interbrand, and it was an industry of fear, and this is a company of fearlessness, right? This is an anything is possible company in marketing. So, I think to Bob's point, there's real benefits to the marketing world when you're here to simply position your client for success. The beauty about working with somebody like Gary is he wasn't a marketer. He was a retailer. He wasn't an ad guy, right? He knew about selling product, and now he was going to figure out, how do I get underpriced attention in the marketplace on social platforms or otherwise to help people sell their products or services. And that's what we've been standing up to do for the 12 or 15 years that he's been doing it.
Well, maybe there's something to speed, and it doesn't give you time to think negatively. Let's go to segment 3, where we're going to talk about some tactics and habits.
Successful manifestation revolves around feelings, as if you already possess the wealth you desire. By holding and embodying this vibration of abundance, you naturally attract similar energies and opportunities. Intention and clarity are pivotal in manifesting financial goals. Clearly defining your aspirations and planned actions creates a focused path for your desires to materialize. It's not just about setting goals, but actively pursuing them with precision. Visualization is a potent manifestation tool. Envisioning your financial success not only inspires, but also aligns your energy with wealth and achievement. Manifestation transcends financial gains, applicable to all areas of life, from relationships to career advancements. The foundational principle is like attracts like. Emitting positive, abundant energy attracts similar experiences and opportunities. Finding practical techniques to attract financial wealth through manifestation is about transforming your financial outlook and achieving goals by aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions with the abundance you seek. This journey fosters a transformational shift towards prosperity and success.
Cliff, share with everybody how you manifested your appearance on this podcast today and how we can develop habits in our daily lives.
Well, I was talking about the fact that I was sitting here in my office thinking, okay, it's January. I'm looking for a new stream of potential clients to kind of roll in, looking for opportunities to get in front of new people who may have never heard of me before. And the thought occurred to me, you know what? One of the things that I could do is make sure to reach out to some people in my network. And it'd be nice if I had an opportunity to be a guest on other people's podcasts and live streams where they've already built an audience. And if they bring me on, it automatically shows that there's some level of trust of who I am. And I can show up and just be myself and maybe reach some new people. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to write that down as something that I'm going to work on over the next 2 or 3 weeks. As soon as I wrote that down, Andy, your email came in and it was like, hey, Cliff, we would like to have you on the show. I know it's last minute, but here's what the show is about. And I'm like, would you like to be? And I'm like, instantly, yes, let's make this happen. It was right there at that moment. What I'd love to share is just one other system of manifestation, just to give you an idea. This is back in the day where I was just introduced to this idea of just putting faith in what at the time for me, the language, just putting my faith in God, trusting in providence, just trusting in abundance. And I had just had 3 months in a row where every single month I had achieved way more income than I ever dreamed possible. But this was after a season of not doing so hot financially because of my old style limiting beliefs and money mindset at the time. So my wife comes to me and she's like, "Hey, you've been doing incredibly well. Can you write a paycheck for twice the amount of what it would normally be?" And I said, "Well, that would be like $12,000 and it overall." And I just like, she goes, "Well, didn't you say there's a lot extra in the bank account?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, hey, we've sacrificed for a while. Just go ahead and write the 12,000. The money's there." I'm like, "Well, I'd really like it." And I was suffering right there, wanting to hold on to that old money mindset, that old scarcity mindset. I'd like to hold a buffer of this extra income just in case this starts to slow down. And so I convinced her to write a check that was more than we normally do for our paycheck, but certainly not the amount that was available in which she was requested. And she wrote it and she was about ready to leave. And I said, "Wait a second." And I felt this voice within that says, "Write the check for the full amount. Write the check for 12,000." Or it was more. It was 12,000 is what it would have been after the taxes. But she says, "Right." The voice within says, "Write the check for the full amount." And then the next phrase came into my. Wasn't an audible voice, but it was as clear as if you guys said something to me audibly. The next phrase that came in, "There's more where that came from." And I'm like, "Stephanie, void that check, write it for the full amount." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "I just feel internally that I'm supposed to do this, and there's more where that comes from." So she does all of that. She's on the way out the door. She's left. And as far as I know, she's off to make the deposit and do all of her errands. And 5 minutes later, my wife comes right back into the door. And she says, "You're not going to believe this." And she's holding a white envelope that she's obviously opened. She says, "You are not going to believe what's inside this envelope." And she had this look of like, I can't even describe the look, only to tell you that my mind at the time is like the only thing I could think of to put that look on my wife's face. And to have her ask the question, "You're not going to believe what's in this envelope." The only thing my thought went to is, oh my gosh, did a female listener send a picture of herself nude to me in the mail? So I wanted to set that. This is the image of what's going on. And instead, if you go to, by the way, if you go to mindsetanswerman.com/check, mindsetanswerman.com/check, you will see what was in the envelope. It was a letter and a check for $12,000, the exact amount that we needed to fulfill my wife's desire to have that, was in the mailbox the entire time. And that voice within that says, "Go ahead and write it. I promise you there's more where that came from." And it was instantly right there. So, and by the way, this is one of at least 50 stories, 100 stories that I could point to of instant manifestation.
James, how does the accountant explain something like that happening?
Well, it's like Cliff, it's a biblical-based principle. You reap what it is that you sow. I mean, my life changed when I learned how to tithe. And I never thought I'd be able to do that, and I've been doing that now for 35 plus years. So, and there's something to be said for the action plans and the intentions. I mean, even in my own life, God, I started saving for college for my kids in 1989. My first kid wasn't born until 1996. so there's certainly planning and intention involved. But I also believe it's having the vision, envisioning yourself, seeing yourself there. I'm in marketing because as an auditor, one of my clients was a branding company called Siegel and Gale. And I remember I was the accountant sitting in a cubicle in a three-piece suit, but looking around and saying to myself, I can see myself in a place like this. This is a pretty cool environment. I could see myself really prospering in an environment like this. And it was really that vision. I didn't make it directly there after the accounting. I went to Wall Street, but it was envisioning myself in that environment that I really saw, and that led to a 30+ year career, from public relations to branding to general market advertising to mobile media to now the social digital world that I'm here with Gary.
Let's move on to segment 4.
Ethics play a crucial role in balancing personal desires with societal responsibilities. Understanding this dynamic is key to responsible wealth management and maintaining moral integrity. Wealth can significantly impact moral decision-making. As wealth increases, so does the complexity of ethical considerations. It's crucial to explore how wealth influences behavior and decision-making, particularly regarding societal responsibilities. Ethical dilemmas faced by the wealthy often revolve around balancing societal contributions with personal desires. It's about finding a harmonious coexistence of prosperity and moral integrity. This balance is essential for maintaining ethical standards while pursuing financial goals. Prosperity and avoidance of materialism can coexist. A philosophical perspective on wealth ethics can provide foundational understanding for ethical wealth attraction. Ethical considerations in wealth attraction and management are multifaceted. They involve a delicate balance between achieving personal financial goals and upholding responsibilities towards society.
Tony, James brought up tithing in the last segment. Can you discuss the importance of balancing prosperity with moral and societal responsibilities?
From a human behavioral perspective, each individual has a unique blueprint of what they value. So most people don't have the clarity of what it is. But if you become clear on what it is, and one of the methodologies I devised is about value clarification. And I wrote a book about how authenticity plugs into this. So for us, the balance between building wealth and then our morals, which are consistently evolving and changing in the process of acquiring wealth, it's extremely important. Why? Because basically, if we become too greedy, you will have when we go back into the law of attraction, of law of balance, the very same law of balance will invite all those people who will actually attack you for being too greedy. So, in each one of us, no matter who you are, we have the innate desire to serve. We have an innate desire to solve a problem, and we have an innate desire to grow. Now, most people find it very difficult how to actually balance those desires. But when you have a very clear vision of where you want to go, and you have a very clear purpose, and you're very clear on your values, for instance, not every person's value is to be a billionaire. So most of my clients that I work, they want to be in 100 million, in a billion. But most people think they are greedy. But then when I start asking them questions, do you know how many people this person employs? Do you know how many children those people he employs have? Do you know how many schools and all the retails and all the shopping that this one individual who has built this business is actually helping all of those people down the train? And then I ask them, do you think he's greedy now? And suddenly people start changing their perspective around wealth and around wealthy individuals. So most people will have some form of charge against wealth, unconscious or conscious, because, mentioned earlier on about the different biases that we have within ourselves, but also with other people. So being able to maintain those as you keep growing your wealth, it's essential and it's healthy. One and foremost for yourself, because you're not going to raise your, I would say, amygdala responses of different stress and guilt and all of those, because those are the things that actually kill the wealth building. So if you approach it with a grateful heart and you have this philanthropic vision of what wealth enables you to do, and what that is individual for every person. One of my clients, for instance, that we've been going from 10 million to 100 million, and we're working now to a billion. Now, he wants to pretty much work not only on wealth building, but also serving and conserving bigger areas where we have like loss of, I would say, wildlife. And like, for instance, the other part is they actually monetizing manure and being able to provide all the gardens with the kind of manure that builds the plant life. And as a result of that, we have more bees and we have other things. So each individual has this deeper calling that they want to make a difference. So when we balance that, we are actually more driven to grow more wealth and we can serve it. And we all know we come naked into this world and we depart naked. So while we building that wealth, it's really what difference do we make in other people's lives.
I love that. Bob, you have something to share?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people who struggle with welcoming abundance and money into their lives, Tony kind of touched on it here. They feel it's selfish. They feel that, oh, I'm focused on me, and there's I think Americans, from what I understand, has a sort of perception that we're the me type of society. And sometimes that's frowned upon. So you think to yourself, I don't care about myself. I want to help other people. And then you don't have the abundance, you don't have the resources then to truly help other people. So I think the best way to serve is to fill up your own tank, both attitudinally, psychologically, but also abundantly. The more money that you have, the more richness to your life, the more joy, gratitude, love that you have in your life, that puts you in a much better position to serve other people than if you deny yourself all of those things. And I think people need to be reminded of that. Fill up your own tank. There's the classic example that people use when they're given the instructions on the airplane. If you're taking care of a child or someone, we lose pressure. Put the mask on yourself first, then help the person or that you're with. And so yeah, don't be ashamed of filling up your own tank. So if you really want to serve humanity, that's the best way to do it.
Definitely a component of helping others and giving back. let's bring it home and go to segment 5.
Integrating abundance into daily life involves embedding mindful habits and practices that foster prosperity and well-being. Mindfulness, centered on non-judgmental awareness of our inner world, is key. Integrating this practice into daily routines transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for presence and gratitude. Mindful eating is a transformative habit. It's about truly savoring each bite, attuning to textures and flavors, and listening to the body's cues. This approach deepens the enjoyment of food and cultivates a healthier relationship with eating. Incorporating mindful breathing into daily activities like commuting or during breaks helps anchor in the present moment. This simple focus on breath fosters calmness and reduces stress. Mindful walking is another enriching practice. Being fully present with each step and attentive to the environment and bodily sensations turns walking into a meditative experience. These mindful practices embody abundance principles, promoting presence, gratitude, and a deeper self-connection. Cultivating an outlook focused on prosperity and well-being contributes to a more fulfilling and enriching life.
So I'm curious if our panelists have a favorite mindful practice or tip to share with the viewers. Can we start with Bob first?
Sure. Well, now that I've had this affirmations-based YouTube channel for 7 years, I've gotten a ton of feedback about what motivates people to go there and to practice. And my most popular affirmations are morning affirmations. People usually seek these things out when they're going through a rough time, and it helps to lift them up. That's great. But quite often, when they feel better, they move on to other things. I believe that having a regular practice of reminding yourself of what the things in your life that are going well, seeking opportunities, visualizing your goals, including emotion into that. I think you should do that, feast or famine. And I think the best time to do it is if you're only going to do this once a day, morning by far is the best time to do it, and to try to do it soon. Sometimes people even start this process when they're still in bed. They don't even get out of bed. They'll listen to something, think about what they're grateful for, visualize their day unfolding in the way that they want it to. And how do you want to feel today? How do you want to show up in the world? So I believe that a morning practice really sets the foundation for your day. Not every day is going to go, it's perfect, of course, but it just sets the tone. If you were to add a second time right before you go to bed, have that bookend day effect. Look back on your day. What were the lessons learned? What were the highlights? And what can you learn to do better in the future? And then maybe listen to something as you drift off to sleep, either affirmations or a music that will raise your vibe while you sleep. So yeah, I think that those habits are crucial to living a fulfilling life.
I like that. I'm going to start a morning practice, and part of that is getting rid of my smartphone, like lock it in a drawer or something, because it's creating a massive distraction. How about you, Cliff?
Oh, my favorite practice for mindfulness and just living in the moment is meditation. And my favorite app for that is called Insight Timer. It's available for free. You never would have to pay for it. Although there is a small subscription option for Plus subscribers, and you get access to some more professional courses and stuff like that. But there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of free meditations currently in the app right now. Am I able to see it on the home screen? I don't see the map right now. But anyway, normally it tells me here there are currently 836,000 people who meditated today using this app. And I will say that I am currently, today was 693 consecutive days without missing meditation. Meditation for me is absolutely hands down my favorite activity. At least once a day, no less than 5 to 10 minutes, and more is what I typically do.
Great advice.
If I might mention real quick, but you can find my affirmations in the Insight Timer app too. So
I'm going to look you up.
I'm glad you brought that up, Glenn.
Cool. How about you, Tony?
Well, I would say a combination of what Cliff and Bob said, but even I have this Tony's billionaire ritual that I've been practicing this for a while now. And it's incredible how it has changed my life, first and foremost. And then I started creating that for my clients. So what is a billionaire ritual is about? Engaging the five senses in the morning and in the evening. Meaning, when it comes to abundance mindset, it's like, for instance, if I go to bed in the evening, bringing all the senses and looking back throughout the day where I see and I'm grateful for the abundance. For instance, if I smell the food or the perfume that I'm wearing, or I touched something, or I went for a walk in nature, and being able to go with that mindset to sleep and actually put in my intention of what do I want next morning. And in the morning, for sure, I start my every day for the last, I would say, 20 years now with meditation. And also part of that meditation is a visualization. So I've created some meditation solutions for people for abundance money mindset, awakening your money mindset meditation. And with that, it's pretty much when we engage our creative mind and when we engage our emotions, we start really raising this vibration of abundance and gratitude. So after I do my meditation, one thing I do is I have coins and I click them. So I engage now my ears with the sound of wealth. And I would say I would love more of those. They could be gold coins, for instance, because you can invest in gold. So it doesn't have to be the money itself, but the sound of it, you bring it into your senses every morning and you start reprogramming your brain for abundance. And also the part of the billionaire ritual, it's actually writing down every single day the kind of problems you can solve and the kind of skills, new skills you actually learn on a daily basis. And most people don't give credit to themselves for the amazing problem solving solutions for others. And they don't know how to take that and then monetize it and bring it into that billionaire mindset. And then link that billionaire mindset with this vision beyond oneself, which I talk quite a lot in the Unfakeable Codebook, Take Back Control, Live Freely and Lead Authentically. And also in Path to Excellence, where I share a methodology about 8 principles of personal and leadership excellence, and bringing that all together into billionaire ritual.
I like the coins. I like the coins. For a minute there, I was thinking about the cash register ringing, but then
yes, cash register ringing. So each person would have a very different association to the coin.
I hope that doesn't get misinterpreted and mean that I just start overspending.
Well, it's essential for both, by the way, because the more we earn, the more we spend. And something that my parents were very humble restaurateurs. So I come also from a, humble parents who got married in an arranged marriage, started from nothing. They built many restaurants and many properties. And, during the war, we lost all of that. And then using some of the wisdom that I could see in my parents never chased money, but they chased service. They fed people every single day with lots of joy and with lots of gratitude. And they had those spiritual principles because they pretty much in former Yugoslavia, religion wasn't really encouraged. So it was something that you at home, and there are many mixed marriages, and I am product of a mixed marriage, but we were brought up pretty much more on, I would say, the science side of things, but also spiritually at home. So my parents were very humble when it came to that. They never thought about money, although they created a lot together as a couple, but their focus was feeding people, creating experiences, and making them feel welcome and being like a family, home-cooked food. And it is the same principles that I apply in my own entrepreneurial business to make people feel amazing when they're around me.
And how about James? Mindful practices?
Yeah, for me, it's my form of meditation is a mindful prayer life, and I have that regularly. I cannot start the day personally without it, and find myself really praying more for others, families, friends, and those in need than for myself. But my wife taught me recently about mindful walking. And, we rent a house on the Jersey Shore every summer. And my favorite part about this is not the proximity to the beach and the beautiful, weather and all those other things that come along with it, but rather the mindful walks that she and I do every morning, 2 to 3 miles, rain or shine on the boardwalk, just really celebrating life and just being thankful for all that we have and all that we hope to have and who we hope to help and but the mindful walking is something that she taught me and I really appreciate that now.
Walking's great. It really really helps to spark creativity, and I'm sure you get great ideas on those walks.
Absolutely, and a lot of dreams too, right? My mother always told me, "Don't be afraid to dream big dreams, and always be a leader and not a follower." And those are two principles I've kept with me all my life.
That's great advice. Well, I want to thank all the panelists for being so generous with their time in this episode. Just some really quick takeaways. I love the idea of keeping an open mind, and that an abundance mindset can coexist with other beliefs that you may have. I love the idea of manifesting wealth and abundance, and the idea of service over money. And it's all related in this virtuous circle. But it seems that when you're focused on service and helping people, wealth tends to come back to you. So thanks once again to all the panelists. I urge everyone to check them out, follow them. You can find Bob Baker at bobbakerinspiration.com. He's also at promoteyourcreativity.com. But check out the affirmations at YouTube. They're fantastic. Cliff Ravenscraft is at cliffravenscraft.com. Tony J. Selimi is at Selimi.
TonySelimi.com, yes.
TonySelimi.com. And finally, last but not least, we have James Orsini. You can find him on LinkedIn, where he generously shared this episode, and you can find more about him and what he's doing at VaynerX.com. Thank you, panelists. I thank you to the viewers and listeners for joining us. And I hope to see you next week, Wednesday, January 24th, same time, 6 p.m. with episode 20. We're going to be discussing beyond traditional investing, exploring alternative asset classes. Our panelists that are confirmed right now include David Stein, former institutional money manager and host of the Money for the Rest of Us podcast. We have Scott Lynn, who is founder and CEO of Masterworks.io, and Rick Edelman, longtime financial advisor, radio host, and host of The Truth About Your Future. So think about abundance, think about having an abundance mindset, and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.